Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to this week's episode of Beyond Galactic. I have two very special guests with me here tonight and two good friends. We've got Stephen and Evan Strong, and these guys are from Forgotten Origin and Our Alien Ancestry. So you guys have probably seen Stephen and Evan way back on Beyond Mystic a couple of years ago now. I think it was maybe 2-3 years ago when I was looking back through episodes. And this was right up to the leading up of the ceremony at Uluru, December 2020. So this will be so good to catch up and for the audience to hear everything that's been transpiring and happening since then. How are you guys today?
Very well, thank you. And thank you for asking us back. We do appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Lovely. Well, I'll read a little bio for you guys in a second. But before we get to that, I'm just going to do a few things. So I just want to remind our audience to jump on over, and we're just waiting for the laggy internet. So jump on over to Beyond Mystic 003 Facebook page, and please like, share, subscribe. You guys can see that there's quite a few interesting shows coming up. I can see Coco here and JC and Meg and Jens and so many new amazing shows and astrology to check out. I also want to remind you guys that I have consultations available. So jump on over to consultations.beyondmystic.net and please use the code word Beyond Mystic in all caps to save 10% on your booking. So I have the Starseed Origin bookings available, and I also have the Mystic Oracle available as well. So jump on over and have a look at that. And I'm just going to click back to you guys and read your bio. So I'm so excited. I've been wanting to catch up with you guys and share like the latest with everyone, because it's so important, not just to like the history of what's about to unfold in the world, but also especially to here in Australia too. And I can see lots of love in the audience. So I'll just read yours first, Stephen. So Stephen has a background as a secondary school teacher with a background also in archaeology and education. So he's involved in the formation of the graduate diploma of the Aboriginal education for the New South Wales Department of Education. So writing units on traditional law and contemporary history. He has also co-authored the highly successful Aboriginal Australia, a language and cultural kit. So Evan has a background in anthropology and Indigenous cultural studies, counselling and meditation with a bachelor's degree in social sciences and a graduate study in psychology. Evan has worked as a researcher for Northern Rivers area, health service and social worker, teacher's aide, and a funeral director. They have spent many years living and learning and working with the Bunjung. You guys will probably pronounce this better than me. So Bunjurung, I'll let you guys correct me, a language conference, Northern Rivers region of New South Wales, the Ramandingiri, South Australian, and the I'll have to get you guys to correct me on all of this. So they operate under the doctrine of the Witragina Blackfellas, Whitefella Dreaming in remembrance of Kano W, spokesperson for the Ramandingiri. They work with a diverse, informal network of independent researchers, original custodians, elders, patrons, supporters, and friends. Stephen and Evan Strong are based near Byron Bay in New South Wales, in a beautiful part of the world. And you guys, I love everything that you're doing. What is it? It's the latest that you guys want to catch us up on at the Beyond Mystic audience.
Okay, well, let's start up. What we might just do is just clarify the pronunciation of those terms.
Thanks, Stephen.
And I need to make clear to people the original language is the most difficult language on this planet to pronounce. The philosophy we believe in, which is blackfella, whitefella dreaming, is called Wirrachin. And Bunjalung, you got very close to correct. Gamilaroi was a little bit harder. But don't worry too much. As long as you make an attempt, it doesn't matter if it doesn't come out quite right, because a lot of times we can't get it, can we? No. When you put NGH together and you're trying to work out what NGH sounds like, it can sound like anything depending on what's around it. So it is tough. In relation to what's happened recently, what we've got to do today is, because Evan can't actually do the film, the videos, because we're having a problem loading and SOLRETA's doing it first. We are going to talk about things a little bit back to front, but I'm going to lead up to some very important evidence that substantiates on an empirical level that aliens have been involved with us forever. But first up, we're going to talk, I think, about carry-on, aren't we?
Yeah, and the situation there.
I want to talk about a site in Australia that probably for people in America, you might think, oh, I can't really see this relate so much, but it does in a very insidious way. I need to go back to 2019 when the New South Wales government sent out a letter to every lands council in the state and told them one thing: develop at all costs. All of the sacred land that they had acquired, because it had sacred sites within it, and that gave it the right to be acquired. They either bought it, was given to them. They were told all of that now needs to turn into residential properties. And what has happened is the lands councils were told the government, the local council, will make sure those developments are approved. And lo and behold, we're going to talk about the first one. It's been proposed by the Darkinong Lands Council, original people, and they have basically a backlog, don't they, Evan, of over 1,000 sites they're ready to develop. Now, one occasion, they recently sold one piece to a golf club, didn't they, Evan?
Yeah, it's a resort and golf club, and it just so happened there was an elder that was buried in that site, and there's now a golf course and resort. But basically cemetery.
There's either a bunker or a green somewhere within that. Now, they're doing that everywhere, and what's happened is this particular development is the first one in New South Wales. If this gets up, then what that will mean is that everywhere in the state, they will be selling off sacred land en masse. Now, you need to understand the government, both the state government and federal government, have already been involved in approving the destruction of sacred sites. It's happened everywhere. Rio Tinto blew up one of the most important sites in inland Australia, the oldest yet dated, blew it up completely, and they were fined nothing.
So what you're seeing here in the pictures is a particular site
called Carry On.
Yeah, and it happens to be where there are
some Egyptian there are Egyptian hieroglyphs on the site there, and what there are also, and if we can sort of, that's
me standing in a hole.
I'll need to talk. Can we go to we'll stay to that first. Okay. What we have there is 3 walls that have about 300 hieroglyphs there. Right? Now, what's interesting about those hieroglyphs, it starts with sections. Can you see that there's a roof of a sort of stone above this section? They've smashed that away completely.
So what you saw in the previous photos of what it looks like now, that's what it used
to look like. This is now fully exposed and open to the weather. Okay. And that's going to happen. The whole of this is now exposed. And primarily what we're getting now is we're getting a concerted effort by the Darkinong Lands Council to tell everyone. And they've said things like this on national radio. They said that what you're looking at now is just pure graffiti and they want it destroyed.
That particular glyph has been buried.
That glyph that we're showing you now, they've been to the site, they've buried it. Can you see how the ground is underneath it? They've chucked so much rubble inside these walls now, up above the head, another half a meter, it's all filled up. That is one of the most important glyphs there, and it's about the creation of humanity. Okay, and we'll tell you more about who's done that. Now, what they've said is they've done it because it was unsafe. Hang on. Oh, we're still here. I thought we'd gone for a second.
No.
Right. Okay, now what has now happened is they've started the destruction of this site. They've said they're trying to make it so it's safe, and it's not. They've got bits of stuff. Well, we've got some rocks that were pulled away and have held in by strapping.
Yeah, those photos were up there.
That was the one you saw earlier. And what also happened when they went there, ladies and gentlemen, the site, they dropped in machinery through helicopters to destroy this site. They put up notices saying no one can go in there. They went in there and started working. And at the end of the first day, something amazing happened, didn't it, Evan?
Yeah, one of the workers was hurt.
One of the workers was hurt. And we've seen pictures of the blood splattered everywhere. And I'm going to tell you, this is not, I cut my finger. This is, I've severed an artery. In fact, it was so dangerous that they called in a Westpac helicopter, a medical helicopter at Gosford, who came in and picked this guy up, and they did not take him to the Gosford Hospital, did they?
Took them to Sydney.
They took him to Royal North Shore Hospital. To do that means that whatever happened to this guy, it was life-threatening. And this happened when these guys were blowing up the site and destroying it. Now, I'm going to tell you now, what happened there, it wasn't an accident. That was the site defending itself. Now, we're in a situation now with this particular site. If we can go back to some of those pictures again, please, if you can, Solreta. That's another picture of what's taking place. Now, I can tell you, they've claimed, and you'll notice you can see the roof above, gone. All of it's gone. Everything's been exposed. What they've said is, look, some vandals did it. They said that a deranged check did it.
That's how it used to look.
That's how it used to look.
Oh, yeah.
It's a complete mess now. They've made all sorts of comments about who did it. The problem is they've said a deranged check did it in 1975. They said Sydney Uni students did it in 1960. They claimed that a returned vet from the First World War did it in 1920. But the point is, in every case when they claim it's someone else, they don't give us a name. They've never given a name as such. What we can tell you is we've had all the elders. We only work with the elders when we go on the site, and they've all told us exactly the same thing. It's legitimate. It's ancient. Oh, no, we've gone too far. Don't go that far. We'll come to that next. Okay. Remember, Evan was normally going to do this, and Solreta's just shooting around at the moment. Okay, and we'll get to the aliens next, because that's what's coming up next. I know that now, so I know where we're going. So what's happened is this. Then there was such an outcry when they started to do this, because what they want to do is they want to put in a 70 house residential development within about 400 meters of all these sites we're talking about. And what they've said is the site is not legitimate, it's fake. We have one elder that has said and wrote to us, and I just put an article up where he wrote to us and told us he wanted to put this article up, where he said, we're going to destroy it. He actually said, and it's printed, we are going to destroy that site. And what's fascinating is this. The evidence they've given for destroying the site is quoting from government sources. Government sources, for God's sake. Well, if you want to believe the government, good luck with that. What they didn't quote from is Arnie Bev, Arnie Colleen, and Arnie Tracy have all said it's legitimate. But the government sources said no. So what's happened is the Darking on Lands Council, when they put the letter up to tell us why they're going to destroy it, only cited government sources who said it's a fake. Now, you've got to remember a couple of things. We took Eric von Daniken to this site, didn't we? Mm-hmm. And he looked at us and he said, are there people who are saying this is only 100, 200 years old? I said, yes, they are. He said, they're idiots. He said, look at the lichen there. He said, that takes 500 years to grow. Arnie Bev said that the women would go up there every couple of years and clean the glyphs for thousands of years with their urine. Sounds a bit messy, but I'm only telling you what we were told, aren't we, Evan? Yep. It is legitimate and it is being destroyed. And if you want proof, here's the best proof of this, ladies and gentlemen. So great was the outcry when they decided they wanted to subdivide this. They've asked people, they do this token gesture, but they ask people to put in a complaint or put in a submission. And people did. Yeah. But it wasn't 100. It wasn't 1,000. It was over 3,000 submissions complained about this and wanted to go and speak on behalf of this when they held the public meeting. Well, that was good, wasn't it? But here's the trick, ladies and gentlemen. After the submissions had closed, the day after, they announced that they'd lost nearly all of them. Lost nearly 3,000 submissions completely. And then when you went to the site to then resubmit, it was closed, wasn't it, Evan? Yes. But the good news was there was a person you could speak to called Nicole. So I rang her to find out what's going on. And I got a recorded message. I don't do this anymore. I've gone somewhere else. Don't talk to me. Just ring up the general phone call for planning and environment. And I did. And I rang him up. I told him what was going on. And he said, I know nothing about this. I said, hang on, we're getting shafted here. And I told him, I said, well, the government have told us they lost all 3,000 submissions. And his name is Justin. I can tell you that now. And he told me Don't forget he works for the government. He said they're lying. I said, whoa, hang on for a sec. This is a bit different. We don't normally get the truth from any government person.
Especially a bureaucrat.
Yeah. I said, what are you saying? What do you mean by that? He said, mate, we've got some of the best experts on computers on this planet working for us. And if they know the number, which they did, they know where it is. Surely the government isn't lying to us. But then what happened? I said, okay. And he said, get back to me if you can't get it through and I'll find out a way. Well, 3 days later, the government announced they'd made an extension of 1 week for people to put their submissions in because they had been accidentally lost. Wonderful. Great. So we did, didn't we, Evan?
We did.
But here's the point. Do you reckon that all 3,000 people knew that their submission hadn't gotten through? No way. Then it gets real weird. We got a response back saying, yes, we've got your resubmission. Then a week later, what did we get then, Evan? Another response from who? The government, wasn't it? And what's this one? For the first one, they'd found it. They'd found the 3,000 submissions that had disappeared. Now, do you know what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen? They'll hold a meeting, but I want to make a point. The government has said we're going to get this through. The Gosford City Council have approved it. The Lands Council have approved it. And do you know what's going to happen? No one will get asked to that meeting except the 3 or 4 people who wrote something for the submission. And the fact that it's been smashed and little rocks have been tied against other places, where's the fences to stop people getting in? There are none. It is an absolute bombshell. And can you see all that gravel down the bottom? That is about 2 meters of gravel. And they've covered up everything. What they have admitted is the other set of glyphs that they never speak about, but they know they're there, which were also supposed to be done by this fake group. That one, the actual rocks have been compromised because someone went in there with a metal detector and dug down, and Evan, you saw a picture of Evan standing inside it. And there's a set of glyphs above that too, which we've read, talk about the fact that someone died there. All of that is part of Australia today. Every site in Australia right now is now under direct threat. And they are destroying the sites all over this country simply because they know there's a change that's taking place and they don't want these spiritual icons. We've been told by our elders, if that site is destroyed, it will slow down the spiritual progress of this planet.
Yep.
And slow down the transformation that's supposed to take place. It is so important. One of the reasons it's so important, SOLRETA, and you've been to this site, so you know this, is the most common glyph there is what the public refer to as the UFO glyphs. And there are 8 of them. And this story, and we've read it, is about us being genetically engineered and created. And the second panel talks about that in great detail. All of that information, ladies and gentlemen, they don't want to come out. So
hopefully you can see the UFO in this panel. Sorry to interrupt, Stephen, but I also just want to share with people. So when you go to this sacred site, there's a very, very special mother tree or grandmother tree. And it's really important to, make contact with the land to ask for permission to be on country. Because as Stephen was saying before, the people that destroyed the glyphs, if you go onto the land with bad intentions or you want to steal or take something, this site will not allow this kind of thing to happen. So I remember when you guys told me the instructions on how to get there, what to do when I got there. I had to greet the grandmother tree, which there was this huge vortex of energy travel up and inside, and you could feel her energy really meet you. And this, out of all the places I've been in the world, had the most kind of like Indiana Jones adventure, otherworldly feel, as well as a Pleiadian healing table specifically for women at the top of the site. And I remember going into the entrance near this site and feeling, no, I need to go up and around and come in from the top down. And I remember you guys saying that you meant to wait for the 2 lizards to greet you as you go into this site, and the 2 lizards were there. So I just want people to really know and understand the sacredness of this place. And I can see from the comments in the audience too, they're really feeling, with the destruction and everything. And Ev, I can see that you've got your thing working, your pictures. Do you want me to add that in now?
Well, I was just thinking, put this picture up because it shows you
The
how many
UFO
times
glyphs.
the UFO glyphs used.
There they are.
Perfect. There we go,
That's
guys.
the most common glyph there, and you'll find in all of them, there's some are plummeting down, some are the right way up. You can see some that are facing the wrong way. That is a dreaming story that Uncle Reuben Kelly spoke about when aliens came here on one occasion in a ship made of energy. When it got here, it turned into crystal and it was shot down. And this is a story about them being shot down and some that survived. So that's a very important narrative and part of this story. Yes, there are Egyptian hieroglyphs there. There's one passage, the one that's been completely exposed, where the link up to Proto-Egyptian is 92%. But on the other two walls, the link to Proto-Egyptian hieroglyphs is 40%. And Arnie Bev said that we had a language before them and they learnt their hieroglyphs from us, which is a change to what you've heard. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the focal point of this is this UFO story is front and center that's on those glyphs. And that's one of the reasons why the government has got to dismiss it. But of course, I do want to go a bit further because we've only got an hour and I'd like to go on to the absolute proof we have.
Sorry to interrupt. There's an important question for you guys just down here as well. And there's a few people in the audience wanting to know how they could contribute or help.
Yeah.
Because it's national park / crown land, I don't know how we could purchase that.
No.
In fact, because it's I'd say it's government owned.
But what I can tell you is tomorrow we're putting up a 2-hour presentation with 6 speakers that were involved in this, and you can find out contact people to contact people you can actually make contact with and help and assist in different ways. We're putting up virtually everyone that's fighting for this. We've gone and asked elders, environmentalists, you name it, they're all there tomorrow. So if you want to find out and get more details and get involved, come and check this out. We're going to put that particular presentation up for, I think, a week, aren't we, Evan? It's free for a week. Normally we put it up for one day, then put it on our site where subscribers can watch it. Because this is so important, we're putting it up and it's on tomorrow. So if you want to watch that, you can find out how to get involved with this. You'll get contacts running there all the time.
I've got that just up now. So
thank you. Yeah, that's what's coming up next. Now, what I'd like to do now is I want to now present to you.
It's in the comments below for the audience too. So they should be able to click on the link or copy and paste.
Yep, definitely.
Yep.
All right. Now, can we now go to the aliens? I want to show you what they look like. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you what they actually look like. And we do know for a fact that the aliens that I'm going to show you were involved in Carry On. So it's easy for us to say that now, isn't it, Evan? Okay, if we can, please, Solreta, can we go on to the...
It might take just a moment to get the picture back up. Facebook's gone back to...
Right. Okay, well, I'll explain what happened.
I'll see if I can get it up.
I got a phone call about 4 years ago from a gentleman that I knew quite well. He said, I've got some people who want to make contact with you, and this is what they sent us. I thought, oh, my God, we've got an elongated skull here. And they said that there was another skull there that didn't have sutures. And I'm thinking to myself, sutures, that's what makes hominids different to apes. Because apes don't have sutures, so their brains can't get bigger. Sutures is what took Lucy from 660 to what we are today, which is 1300 cc. I'd like to see that. And that particular piece of work there, have a look at the massive eyes on that and the huge eyebrows. But, ladies and gentlemen, a picture sometimes can lie, and that's a lie. Look at the size of that nose, and you'll see more of it in a sec. Can we go to the next one, please? That is what we actually saw. And what you're going to see there is a massive nose, incredibly large eyes, 46% larger than Homo sapiens. And here's the trick. No forehead. You're going to see this as we go along. Again, we've taken this from above. When you actually get to stand alongside this, and I'm going to show you the skull created in a second. We'll go through the pictures first. You'll find more. Now that's the one we need to look at. Let's stay on that one. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what you see when you get down to face level, face to face. You know what's missing? No forehead, nothing. A massive set of eyes, a huge nose, nothing like ours, and no forehead. Now, somebody might think, oh my God, that's so primitive. It's like Lucy, and it looks like it's got no brain. No brain. Not quite. Next picture, please, Evan. That is what's behind. Now, check out that. Now, where does it get its widest? At the back. Not the front, not the middle, but at the back. Now, it is actually 18 centimeters wide. SOLRETA, the largest our brain is in the middle at 13. Now, I want to ask people as we go further down this line, particularly the ladies watching this at the moment, if you're a great believer in natural birth, I want you to understand something. Some of these beings have no sutures whatsoever. It's really interesting. We found some that have none. This one does. But how do you give natural birth to a skull that measures 18 centimeters when the doctor says try and dilate to 10?
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a bit painful.
Jean-Claude's just put up a link, savesacredcarrionlands.com.
Yeah, it's just in the chat below.
Good. Okay.
If you go to there, we'll give you a bit of an idea what you can do.
So what I've got there, and I want you to look also, have a look at the nose, how it sticks out. Can you see the nose at the front there? And it sticks out in a way our nose doesn't, honestly. When I looked at this, I thought, my God, what is this? Okay. It goes back about 19 centimeters. Ours goes back about 14. It's 18 across. Ours is 13. This brain that you can't even see from the picture before is massive. It is the largest skull case found in the planet. Now, I want you to look at, now we put the two together. Notice what the nose is doing again, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a second one where it sticks out like that. Its mouth is completely different. Its eyes are completely different. And I want you to look at the middle of that being. Do you notice how we have a depression in there? This doesn't. It sticks out at that point. It doesn't depress in. It runs out. There is nothing in common with these two. Now, the second being over there, the second one, no sutures. None. We looked. I was warned about this. We got microscopes out. I got 4 people to check for me. There is no suture running around the back, and there's no suture running down the side. We've got 3 that join up. And when we're babies, they aren't joined completely. And as you probably know yourself, so already you've had children, you know that they're delicate up there and you don't touch. That's what makes hominids what we are today. But if we don't have sutures, it's not a hominid. It's not a sapien. It is that simple. So this is what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. This is something that doesn't make sense. By the way, this particular site, I've got a bucket load, haven't I, Evan, of letters from the government threatening to put me in jail about this site. They've done everything to try and put me in jail. They threatened everyone that was on this site when we did this. There were about 15 people there, threatened to put all of them in jail, threatened everybody to stop this. And by the way, they've gone back to the farmer and they've closed the site out. No one's allowed to look at it. This is the only time this place was actually exposed for a period of time. Go a bit further, please, Evan.
All right. I'll just skip to the next thing.
Skip to this.
And I'm just letting you guys know we've got around half an hour left as well.
Okay. Right. That's the second one I wanted to show you at the back there. You can see there's no suturing running at the back of that one. And by the way, these 2 skulls were buried next to each other. Well, I want to make a point about that. Can you see how thick that one is up the top there? It has a thickness of around about 15 mil, which makes it the thickest skull found in Australia. But the one next to it, the one I showed you that has no forehead, was 5 mil. And they're buried next to one another. Now, look at the thickness of that. Evan's putting a circle around it now. The other one, it's that thick. It doesn't get thicker than that. And they were buried next to one another. I'm asking myself, what am I dealing with? Oh, yes, the next one. I had that for a while because the elders gave it to me. And if I didn't give it back to the government, I would be in jail right now. But I want you to look at that tooth. Do you notice how it folds or curves outwards? Imagine if you went to the dentist and it was rotting and he tried to pull it out.
Ouch.
I would just say, let it rot, mate. Don't pull it out. They're all three roots, not 2 and 4, but 3. The teeth are different. Everything about these beings is not like us. Now, I need to tell you something important that you can't see there, but you have to take my word for this because I picked this up. When I got to that site, there were bones thrown everywhere. And originally it was buried with their arms like that and the knees up against that facing the east rather. Well, I picked up that one. Can you get to that one there?
That one there?
Yeah.
All right.
Right. On that site, you'll see there's 2 bones that were found there, a humerus bone and a femur bone. And you'll notice I placed rocks around there, sacred rocks, and gave it ceremony before I started. I worked with a wooden ruler because I didn't want to use metal. Well, I picked up the femur bone, which is the bone that goes from your hip to your knee. And it was exactly the same length as mine. And I said to people, well, this being must be 5'10". Then I picked up the humerus bone, which is the one that goes from the shoulder down to the funny bone. That's why it's called the humerus bone, because when you hit it, it's supposed to be humerus, but it's not. Here's the point. It went down to here, but there was no elbow joint, and I measured it. It was 43 centimeters. Do you know how long our humerus bone is? If you're a basketball player, it could be 31. If you're a gibbon, it's 35. This was at least 45, and here's the interesting part. The humerus bone, the thickest part was 1 inch. The gibbon is 2. So you've got the longest arms ever of a being on this planet, and it's useless. And then I put together 2 things. I looked at the size of the eyes and said, that's not made for daylight running. You couldn't go outside with those eyes. You'd be blinded by the sun all day. Now, the Cherokee call them the moon people. They speak about the fact that when the Cherokee first went to the land, they were there farming the land at night.
Yeah, they'd come out.
They never came out in the day because our light is too great. So I looked at that. Then I looked at an arm that's not functional on this planet. Now, if the gravity was half the size it is now, it would be functional. And if we had half the sunlight we've got now, the eyes would be functional. But what nature has made is something that on 2 different occasions doesn't fit into this planet. It would fit in anywhere else. And I started to realize I'm dealing with an alien. I'm running out of alternatives. I've got teeth that aren't the right way around. I've got eyes that are too big. I've got a massive forehead across the top that just disappears completely and slopes back. And from all of that, we start to get put together a story. What has the government done since then? Tried for about 4 years to put me in jail, and they used a lot of different excuses, and every one of them I got around. And eventually, about a year and a bit ago, I got a letter from the government. It was called an official letter of warning. In it, they said, we have more than enough evidence to put you in jail for 3 years and fine you $1 million. They told me in advance what I was going to get. But at this stage in proceedings, we've decided to hold on that. I thought, aren't I lucky? The next paragraph said, at any time in the future we see fit, we will resume proceedings, take you to court, and put you in jail. And that was the last information I had with them. What they were basically saying is, shut up. Don't say anything, and we will leave you alone. Well, I'm still talking. The reason they gave that to me is they know they can't put me in jail because I've been very careful when I've done this. Oh, by the way, here's another one Evan's just going to put up. This is from the second site we've got, and I want to show you that now. And this is when a university professor rang us up and said, I've got bones like yours. And he had 2 skulls he was going to show me. And this is one of them. And what he said was, I took it to the government. If I hang on to this, I'm going to lose my job. Please take it off me. So we went there and we took it off him. And we got this one, and we got this one also. Now, this one is got a thicker bone set than the other one. It's about 17 centimeters across. There it is there. Look at that bone there. It's massive. It's about 17 at its widest point. And he gave me another one. And I'm going to show you that one now. Can you come back to me? What he did was he gave me 8 pieces of bone. And I'm going to show you how it was built. This is what he gave me. And this is what it looks like, ladies and gentlemen. There it is, front on. And now you get a feeling for the slope. Now, it means it's got a different neck to us. It means it's got different arms. We've already proved that. There is nothing in common with this than anyone else. This is not us. That's what it looks like. And what we managed to do is the person who did this worked for the Australian Museum, didn't you?
Mm.
And what did the Australian Museum do to him, Evan?
Put him in jail.
For how many years? 5.
Yeah, it was about 5, wasn't it?
Well, we won't go into the story about it, but he was set up. And when he came out, he didn't like the Australian Museum. When he saw this, he spent 6 months doing this old way. And what we've got is the first part, he had 8 pieces, which we've stuck together, and that's how it goes. And then this was sent on to someone else. Now, the person it was sent to works for Hollywood, doesn't he?
Yeah.
What does he do? He makes the
models, like the skulls, for the Alien and Predator films.
Yeah, he's the guy that makes that. So what he did this, he took over and he made this for us. And this is what we've got at the moment. And here is a normal Homo sapien. You can compare the
a bit
two.
of a difference there, right?
Right, that's how they look. Now, don't tell me their faces are the same, because they're not. And do you know what that does for us, soul readers? Something very important. It explains why it is that all orangutans look roughly the same. All chimpanzees look roughly the same. They're supposed to be our closest cousins. All zebras look roughly the same, but you've got 7 billion humans and none of them look the same. We can stand 0.5 meter tall, 2.5 meters tall. We can weigh 40 kilos. We can weigh 400 kilos. We can run at 3 k's an hour. We can run at 30 k's an hour. All other animals run at the same speed, eat the same stuff, and do everything the same. We don't. Reason's simple. I just showed you one of our fathers or mothers. And if you take a face like that, this one here, and you mix it up with this other face, you can get anything. You can get everything. And that's what we are. We're a combination of the two. But our ancestry is not monkey. It's alien.
I want to also just interject for a second. So I remember when you guys got me to hold one of the skulls, and yes, I remember the feeling. So I just want to also let people know energetically what this feels like. So I think it was the one with the larger eyes and the more straight back head with the bigger base. Mm-hmm. And I remember holding it, and as soon as I held it, I heard like a shriek type sound. It almost felt like a sonar type self-defense. And then when it realized that I wasn't a threat, because it feels like some of the consciousness is still attached to these skulls too.
Oh, it is.
It really is. I remember once it realized I wasn't a threat, it actually took me out into like a multi-dimensional realm or reality. I remember just feeling all of a sudden like I wasn't in human form anymore, and I was out kind of like amongst the galaxy, and I saw stars and things, but I felt that it took me to a timeless place. So I didn't feel that I was under the same constraints of normal time space. So I just wanted to make sure the audience also energetically understands these are definitely not human.
Oh, they're not. And you said something very important there that I want to emphasize, that we were told a story about this alien. And one of the things you said is very important. We've been told by Mesrev, who is timeless, that never dies, that they are their youngest brothers and sisters, which means they are timeless. So when you said that, you were locking in what Mesrev said about these. And equally, what we were also being told is these beings, this particular being I'm showing you now, the one that was broken up into pieces, was called here a long time ago. And it was called not by the reptilians, not by the sapiens, but by the trees. And the trees said the planet was being polluted. The trees were being cut down. The planet was full of warfare, terror, and fear, and the place had to be clean.
Hey, wait a second, that sounds quite familiar, doesn't
No,
it?
no, it's only ever happened once, mate. Then.
No, not now.
No, not now. Now everything's good. Trees would be happy right now. Don't worry about that. This is good. This is real good. And we'll talk about the next part.
And I just want to let you guys know we've got about 20 minutes, and I know that you wanted to share a really special ring that's just been discovered.
Yeah, we're getting to that now, because I want to do the last part of this now, because we're rushing through this a bit. I spoke about the fact that carry-on is about aliens. I wanted to give proof. So now we've shown you what they look like, but we've got more. We've also got their legacy. They left something for us, and they are rings. Now, we do have 3 rings. Well, we did have 3 rings that come from Atlantis. And how do we know that? because they're made from exactly the same material that Pliny the Elder and Plato spoke about, orichalcum, right? And these rings that are made from orichalcum, the Atlantean rings, always have the same components in literally the same percentages.
All right, I'll just get that up for everyone.
Right.
And I've just looked up, while you're finding that slide, this is for tomorrow for you guys for your presentation that you're doing. So what you were extending the invitation for everyone before, it's in the comments below. You should be able to copy and paste it, but I'm just letting you know which one it is. It will be under Jean-Claude Beyond Mystic 003.
Right. Well, what I'm going to tell you now is that I don't know if Evan will get the right readout from this. We're looking for it at the moment. What we did is we've got every one of these rings has been analysed by an electronic machine that's worth 4 figures. I think you've got it now. Right. There we go. And there is Atlantis number 1, 2, and 3. What do they share? Number 1, copper, zinc, nickel, iron, and lead. Okay, that is what orichalcum is. Now, these 3 rings, 2 were found at Hill End in New South Wales, which is 33 degrees south of the equator.
Which is also on the same latitude as the cliff site.
Yeah, on the same latitude. Now, if you look at Atlantis number 1, which has 5 symbols of circles with lines above and below, and 4 of a symbol which you've seen on the second one, which represents Atlas, the son of Poseidon. Now, when you look at Atlantis number 1, you'll find the combined copper and zinc content is 99.3. When you look at Atlantis number 3, which has the same symbols again, it's 99.5 north. They're nearly identical. Then what's interesting, when you look at 1 and 3, the nickel in the first one is 0.120. On the second one, it's 0.121. Identical. Then we look at the iron and we notice that lead is in the first one, but lead's taken out of the next 2 and they put different things in. The second one is gold, and the third one, it's non-earthly. Now, I want to talk more about that part of the equation because I want to now go. I want to do this very quickly because we are running out of time on this. What you need to know about that, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to Wikipedia, it will tell you that orichalcum is a mythical metal that was found in the mythical continent of Atlantis.
And it's just been featured in the Hollywood movie Aquaman 2.
I know. Orichalcum has been picked up big time, and people have written to me and said, have they stolen your work? I said, yes, they have. Yeah. Now, here's the trick with this, ladies and gentlemen. With these rings, the orichalcum is a chemical, a chemist works this. It's not an ore. They tried to look for an ore as such. It doesn't exist. But I've got to tell you one other thing. In that entry from Wikipedia, beneath it, there's a picture of 86 ingots of orichalcum. And we wrote an article about how can it be mythical when you do put up a picture that was found in the 6th century BC of ingots of orichalcum. And there it is there. Evan's going to put it up. And they've said that is orichalcum. And you'll see the breakdown is not quite the same because in the ones we've got, the iron and nickel and lead or whatever else is put in there is like in homeopathic drops. And this occasion with the cruder ones, it's 5 to 10%. For ours, it's 0.05% for those 3. So there is a small difference because these are for the rings and the rings have magic. And I'm going to get to that in a sec. Okay, now can we go to the other group, Evan? And I want to start looking at some things in the Lemurian rings. Now, what is the difference between Lemurian rings and the other ones? Lemurian rings have copper, zinc, iron, nickel, lead, and tin. If you look upon the list there for tin when it comes up, Evan's going to put it up in a sec, you'll find they all have tin. Look at Lemuria ring number 2 and number 3. It's identical again. But there's a couple of things in there I want you to look at, and it starts to give me a clue about who made these rings. Look at Lemurian ring number 1. Okay, now that ring there has an incredibly high lead content of 8.78. It's the highest of any ring there. Now that lead will weaken the structural integrity of the ring. So look what they put in to change it. They put titanium in. Now, this ring was found in Angkor Wat and is at least 10,000 years old. But hang on, titanium was discovered 100 years ago and first used chemically in 1930 to harden 24-karat gold. It's the greatest metal hardener in the world. Now, here's the trick. this was put into a ring that's thousands of years old when we didn't know about titanium. I started to look what was happening here and think, who's doing this? Then here's an interesting one. Look at the Lemurian ring number 3, which has got 35% zinc. That's very high, weakening the integrity again. And what do they put in this time? Chromium. Guess which is the second hardest metal hardener on the planet after titanium? Chromium. And I started to look at this and think, my God, every one of these rings is done differently, and every one of them has got the same makeup, but they put different things in there. And then we get the major ring. Can we go to the next ring, please, Evan? The big one.
Yep.
The ring that proves that the people who made this were not on this planet. Now, I want to show you something about these rings while Evan's putting it up. Here's the first ring I just showed you. I want you to look where my finger is. Oh, my finger's gone.
No, they can see it. I'm just trying to get it up.
Right. There's my finger. In fact, if I want to put 2 fingers in, I can, and I've still got room for more. This one, the one you're looking at now, same deal. They're not made for our fingers, but there's the breakdown of that one. And that is the one that breaks every rule. Because number one, if you add up all those numbers there, because this machine always gives you 100% of what's there, it takes us to 58.2%. 41.8% did not register. Now, we've got another ring that was found at Carry On that's got 24% that doesn't register on the periodic table. And it's 72% aluminium, 3% copper. 24% can't be found. And I spoke to the professors from Southern Cross Uni that worked on this in a laboratory that hires 120 scientists. I spoke to the head professor who did the analysis on that other ring and said that 24% is not on this planet. But going back to this one, 41.8% doesn't register. But look at the gallium. Anyone here familiar with gallium? I bet there'll be one person that is.
There's always one.
There's always one, because we always think nobody knows what that is. But I'm assuming there'll be someone's going to put up and say, yeah, I know what it is. Well, I'll tell you what. You may know what it is, but here's the trick. You can't dig it out of the ground. You cannot mine it. It cannot be mined. It is a byproduct only. You have to melt aluminium steel at 4,000 degrees Celsius to get your 0.1. This is 6.89. After the iron and the mystery metal we don't know about, it's the next highest metal there. Now, I'm asking, this is 6,000 years old. Look at this thing. It's been broken 3 times. Evan, you've broken it, haven't you?
Yeah, I was one of them.
He broke it. My wife broke it. The lady who bought it, her husband broke it. You can breathe on this and it breaks. It's that delicate. And when you break it, you'll find this covering you've got now, there's a cable underneath. It looks like it's just silver. And it's half iron and half this other stuff. But if we look at that readout, if we go through it, we've got cadmium, gallium, ruthenium, rhodium, palladium, platinum. We've got all these things were not found until the 1800s, and some were not even used until the 1900s. What's it doing in a ring buried in the grounds of Angkor Wat that is thousands of years old? Where did they get an oven that goes to 4,000 degrees Celsius to melt the gallium? And why did they put 6.89% in there? Those things you've got in there are used in electronic devices, in solar panels, and all the most sophisticated technology of today. That's why we use those things. That particular readout proves to me that the rings that we know about, the Tolkien rings that you've all heard about, yeah, it's legit. It's legit. Now, I can tell you about those rings, ladies and gentlemen. The Atlantean rings are absolutely everything Tolkien claimed them to be, all 3 of them. They are broken, they are evil, and they were found by 2 different people with metal detectors at Hill End 4 years ago, about 5 years ago and 3 years ago, separate from each other. And both of their stories, if you heard them, you think, my God, well, how did that take place? And they both told me, you're not going to believe me the story about how I found it. When they told me that, I said, yeah, I do, because that's how it's got to be. These things, the Atlantean rings, were found for one reason, because they've sensed today, and it is like the same time when Atlantis fell. The rings from Atlantis destroyed Atlantis. And when Tolkien spoke about the fact if you wear the rings, you are tainted by them. SOLRETA, I think on one occasion, you did hold one of these rings from
I
Atlantis.
did.
Tell
Yeah.
the people there how that went for you.
Well, I didn't know what to expect, but I remember
I did.
I remember not knowing what the other psychics that had held the ring had happened to them, before I held it. But the first thing, and I'll just tap my eyes and tap back into, just close my eyes into the energy. So I remember you giving it to me to hold, and I felt a little bit wary, and I saw my guides standing in the room as if, to be careful. And I remember feeling into it, and I saw like a hexagonal type structure with it. And I saw this black goo type entity that was associated with it. And when they showed me a hexagonal structure, it wanted to fuse and meld into my body, specifically the blood. And it wanted to restructure my blood. And I was then having that. So I didn't hold it for very long. But what I saw was that this ring would take host. So it was looking for a specific set of DNA sequencing in which it could meld with. But along the way, if it didn't have that match, it would destroy the host. And so these people would get sick, they would die. And I forget the amount, but I know I said it was a huge number of the amount of people this ring had killed. But looking into what we know now about graphene oxide and black goo and things like that, I now know that this was more likely what I was seeing trying to assimilate into my body. So luckily, washing my hands with special protective oil straight after, and I was much luckier than some of the other psychics that had held it and received blood poisoning and ended up in hospital and things.
Yeah. By the way, the number you gave was 500,000.
Oh,
people.
yeah. I knew it was a huge amount. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was. And our other psychic, she collapsed and started dry reaching. In fact, her cat wouldn't go near her for a week, which no animal would go near her. They just said, no, we're not going near you. These things are, by the way, I've got to make the point. The Lemurian rings are purely good. They are brilliant. They don't lie. They don't create anything. The rings from Atlantis, here's the story. The story is, and we've got this from Mesref, that humans made it. They put the spell in. And the reason why aliens have never, ever, since Atlantis interfered directly is because of those rings. They made a mistake. In fact, Mesref called them the blasted. The only time he's ever sworn, he called them the blasted rings. And I can tell you, the aliens have told them, none of them would put that ring on their finger. They were petrified of it. The only person who's put it on their finger is me. I've had them all on, a lot. And I can tell you that I've been told by Mesref it will take lifetimes for me to clean out the damage that's created. It's long term and it's complete. So yes, and what happens is when you put these things on, when you put the Atlantean rings on, because they've got a high content of copper, you get that green tinge around your finger. That is how the spell is infused into you. The copper carries the spell. It goes into our bloodstream, like you mentioned before. That's exactly what it does. It taints your blood, and it either will do one of two things. It will use you to create evil, or if you don't want to do that, it will kill you. I can tell you when we got ring number 2, and we've got a couple of minutes to go, I do want to tell you a story about ring number 2, which I thought was the friendliest, which turned out to be the most evil of all. When we first got it, and I brought it home that night, both Evan, and this is true, and he'll back me up, and my wife came up to me independently of each other. And what did they ask me, Evan?
Can I put it on, please?
Remember this? You've been there before. They said, can I put it on? And I looked at both of them and thought, what are you talking about? Anyway, I went and asked this ring. This is my go-to ring. I can ask yes or no, and it'll always give me the right answer. And I said, did the ring speak to Evan and my son? Yes, definitely. Did it ask for them to put it on? Yes, definitely. When they put it on, will they die straight away? Absolutely. And I went back and asked the ring. So you asked to put them on, to kill them? Yeah, I did. And what I think a few people have called, and I think you might have called it this too, it's a trickster. It will trick you. It will lie to you and it will kill you with a smile on its face. But they are all programmed, because what happened with these rings, when they were made by the aliens to put that magic in, it was to bring out the best in people. And what happened is down the line, and we know the story of this, don't we, Evan?
Yeah.
We even know the person who did it, don't we?
Yeah.
Who's incarnated now. They gave the ring to the most evil people and set them on a different path. And what they did was they absorbed all of their negativity, and that became their persona. My belief was I could clean them. And they did say, I think Mesrev did say once, you were cleaning it, and if I had another 10,000 years, it might have worked. But no, not now. In fact, what we've also been told was that the rings that came out are responsible for what's happened over the last 5 years. And let's be honest, the last 5 years have been the worst 5 years that have ever taken place on this planet. They're feeding off it. They've been feeding off it all the way through. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, Carry On is a story about aliens coming here a long period of time. The skulls is a story about why they came on one occasion. And these rings is a story about them coming later and living with us and creating things for us and then realizing later, what have we made? The worst thing that ever could happen. So when we talk about our galactic heritage, I've got to tell you one last thing. There is only one dreaming story that runs through the whole of Australia to all 500 tribes, 500 different languages. The only dreaming story that's shared by every group in Australia is the Seven Sisters from the Pleiades. Every group knows that story, and it's a central part of their dream. That is because we are part human, part alien. And that's really what our ancestry is. And I know that we've just about run out of time now. Sorry.
Well, and it's hard to pack so much information into 1 hour, but I do appreciate you guys coming on so much. And I really want to make sure that people, check out your conference tomorrow. Do you guys want to also just remind people where to register? I've got the website up now, but and how long it will be available?
Yeah, so if you go to where that website is now, click on Save Your Seat and it'll give you a notification and you register for it. It's free to watch for about a week, and then we try to take care of our subscribers, and then it becomes private for them. So that'll be tomorrow. We've got all those speakers. A lot of that was filmed
on site
at the glyphs.
Yep.
Or very close to.
So at the grandmother tree?
Yeah, underneath the grandmother tree.
Yeah, we did this properly. We did this properly, ladies and gentlemen. We made sure that when we spoke about this, we're going to talk about a site, you have to be there.
And, so it's great. Yeah, and I think the time over your way is not too bad.
Oh, it's good in America. If you're in England, sorry.
Yeah, sorry in advance. It's night for you guys and girls, but in Canada, America, you're looking at your afternoon, evening. So,
it's going to be about a little bit over a 2 hour show. It's a shorter one because we've got so many different people speaking for different amounts of time. But at the end of it, you'll find out this is, according to our guides, one of the most important archaeological sites in the world because it's still alive.
If it's destroyed, it affects the rest of the world. The whole grid.
The whole grid will be actually weakened by this site being destroyed. And remember, the workmen went there the first day blowing it up, and within a couple of hours, one of them nearly died. That is not a coincidence. And if they go back to do any more, heaven help them, because no one else will. Okay, thank you.
And I want to make sure to share as well, for people looking to find more information on you guys, we have your website here as well. So that is just listed below. And you guys are on social media and people can interact with your groups and things that you have on Facebook. Really check out, and keep up to date with all of the latest. And I just had to remind people to please jump on over to like, share, and subscribe over on Beyond Mystic 003. And for those of you watching on Rumble, we really appreciate all the likes and shares and growing that Rumble side as well. And I just want to remind you guys, I have consultations available. So please jump on over to consultations.beyondmystic.net and use the code BeyondMystic in all caps to save 10% off. And there's so much more I can see from questions and things in the audience, guys. So I think I'll have to have you back on. And I'm just holding on to my seat for the further developments as this keeps shaping and changing. And how lucky are we to be here in Australia right in the midst of all this amazing information and ancient technology and the artifacts that you guys are really bringing and sharing with the world. So I so appreciate you guys doing this.
Look, when we come on next, we can do you can do a reading on the newest ring that's just come in.
We've got another ring that's come in that changes everything, but we didn't.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping to get back up to where you guys are. Hopefully, not too distant future. So I'd love to come even in person and have a look and see what's happening.
Yep, definitely. All right.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you so much,
looking forward to watching the conference tomorrow. Thank you so much, guys, and sending lots of love to everyone in the audience. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
Bye.